One introduction RAWSEP view: the United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the eco-design wood stove, and international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP view: purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Hi, my name is Lily. Andrew gave you the intro to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates and their concern for air pollution from indoor residential wood burning. Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, or RAWSEP, would like every near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner whose wood smoke enters their yards and sickens the near neighbors to have a purple air PM 2.5 monitor hanging from the eaves of their home to measure the level of PM 2.5 entering their yards. That measurement of air pollution should be used as evidence of unnecessary air pollution, and each indoor residential wood burner should be shut down based on that evidence, one indoor residential wood burner at a time if necessary. The presentation by Andrew ended at 2 minutes 5 seconds. The same presentation by Emma starts at 2 minutes 3 seconds before the end of this podcast. So I am Lily, your timekeeper, and you can start the next podcast at 2 minutes 5 seconds in if you would not like to see the presentation by Andrew a second time. This presentation by me, Lily, ends at 5 minutes in. What you will see in the main content of this RAWSEP podcast will be news about air pollution from indoor residential wood burning, and how that air pollution is being combated by ordinary people just like you who are unfortunately near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners at this time. There will also be news about unnecessary and highly polluting use of wood as fuel in industrial wood burners and preventable air pollution from wood burning wildfires. There will also be news about air pollution from PM 2.5 from gas-powered cars. There will also be news about airborne diseases which are also preventable with vaccines such as COVID-19 and measles and whooping cough, to name just a few. In 2025, Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates is also concerned with combating the Trump destruction of government funding for programs which protect human health through the Department of Health and Human Services, and Trump destruction of programs which fund the science and medical research plan to protect human health from preventable illnesses. Protecting human health is a patriotic act, and our defense against enemies is weakened if we are not as healthy as we can be. Heat pump rebates are now offered by the federal government, distributed through the eligible United States, are available in 2025, and are the best, cleanest, and now cheapest alternative to indoor residential wood burning if that burning is actually done to purportedly save money. Wind and solar as sources of the electricity that powers heat pumps and electric cars is also cheaper than burning wood. The adverse health effects that are caused by indoor residential wood burning also come at a cost to near neighbors, both in shortening and ending their lives, and in actual hospital, clinic, and funeral costs. Instead of being compensated monetarily, near neighbors should instead be able to achieve immediate relief by stopping indoor residential wood burning in their hyper-localized neighborhoods, which relief readings from purple air PM 2.5 monitors used as evidence of air pollution will help them achieve. Welcome to news about hopeful scientific and medical achievements that will also help us achieve the goal of clean air to breathe.
Webisode 57DHXXV September 29, 2025 UK Trendy Indoor Wood Burning Stoves Linked to Lung Decline. In Webisode 57HXXV1, Madison is fortunate, but Wisconsin remains effectively gerrymandered. 2 Kamala Harris, unfortunately for the nation, was not elected President of the United States of America after the editor of RAWSEP read her book, 107 Days. The editor of RAWSEP believes the voters of America should apologize to her for not electing her president, not the other way. Around 3 Artificial intelligence answers a query about how not to apologize for the Climate Trace map shows how. Air pollution travels to your neighborhood. The map is a first-of-its-kind air quality tool from Climate Trace, a non-profit coalition co-founded by former Vice President Al Gore. 5 United Kingdom report at the European Respiratory Society Congress. In Amsterdam Trendy Indoor Wood Burning Stoves Linked to Lung Decline. 6 United Kingdom Camden Wood burning, and cooking to be covered by conference discussion. Panel 7 Madison, Wisconsin, and Rockford, Illinois. And rural areas of Wisconsin. The effect of falsehoods over the airwaves in rural Wisconsin, where TV stations are often limited to Republican Fox News, probably has more effect on demoralizing rural voters than any rural resentment at unfairly perceived airs of superiority from urban dwellers. Has 8 Inside Climate News also has YouTube videos from its conference during Climate Week. Main content. 1 Madison is fortunate, but Wisconsin remains effectively gerrymandered until enough election cycles have passed to make redrawn fair maps take effect and effectively represent the true Democratic views of voters. Madison should not have to apologize as a liberal Democratic city, and what remains to be seen is the liberal Democratic state of Wisconsin to those who are not liberal Democrats within the borders of the state of Wisconsin. Liberal democracy gives several advantages that can be shared with all who benefit from science, medicine, and the arts, which are all enhanced in modern societies governed by liberal democracies. Economic fortune has followed these scientific and medical innovations, which have flowed from development of a modern university and tech companies within Madison borders and in outlying areas, most notably including Epic Systems, which produces software used by hospitals and medical clinics. 2 Kamala Harris, unfortunately for the nation, was not elected President of the United States of America after the editor of RAWSEP read her book, 107 Days. The editor of RAWSEP believes the voters of America should apologize to her for not electing her president, not the other way around, as some reviewers of her book in the New York Times and The Guardian strongly imply in their headlines. An even cursory review of her book shows that Kamala Harris accounts for every day of her short, abbreviated campaign, with a dispassionate look at the ongoing Trump lies and distractions, and her rebuttal of these lies and countering of distractions with a message of hope and positivity. A woman who assesses the negativity she encountered is depicted in book reviews as perhaps insufficiently grateful for the chance to run. A woman who lays out the negative effects of electing a president who will follow dictates of the far-right Project 2025, strongly resembling fascism and even neo-Nazism, while dismantling of a liberal democracy that under President Joe Biden was emerging from the pandemic economically powerfully finding its feet, and with the Infrastructure Act and the Inflation Reduction Act created new jobs and supported a path to affordable health care for all and a cancer moonshot, as well as provided COVID vaccines and updates to COVID vaccines and other life-saving vaccines as a matter of course from reliable government funding of science and medicine mean to support the health of all people in our modern society that was the envy of the world is depicted as on the wrong side of history. The editor of RAWSEP sees that liberal democracy represented by victories in 2026 and 2028 is the only way for America to be and to be seen by the world as fortunate in the future. Countering the lies and distractions from Trump as they occur in each coming day seems the only way to make America fortunate again. 3 No apologies from either liberal Madison or liberal Kamala Harris. Artificial intelligence overview. There is no single word for a forced apology, but the situation can be described using several terms depending on the nuance. For the act itself, compelled or coerced apology, these terms directly state that the apology was forced rather than voluntary. Insincere apology. A compelled apology is by definition not genuine. Non-apology, a statement that has the form of an apology but does not express true remorse. This is often used to manipulate a situation without admitting fault. Faux apology, a more informal blended term for a material lack of an apology. An apology under duress is a legal or formal term for a confession or statement made under threat or force for the person giving the apology. Sheepish, an adjective describing someone who is embarrassed or awkward and forced to make a confession. Remorseful, while typically a word for being genuinely sorry, it can be used sarcastically to describe a person who is acting sorry but does not mean it. Mealy mouth describes someone who is hesitant to speak frankly, often to avoid offending others. This can apply to an apology that is evasive and not sincere for the person forcing the apology. Gaslighting, a form of manipulation where someone is made to question their own perception or sanity. In this context, it can describe making someone feel they were at fault for an incident caused by the manipulator, therefore forcing them to apologize for. Tennessee, Al Gore PM 2.5. This map shows how air pollution travels to your neighborhood. The map is a first-of-its-kind air quality tool from Climate Trace, a non-profit coalition co-founded by former Vice President Al Gore. RAWSEP view. It is not clear to the editor of RAWSEP yet if this map is better than consulting a purple air PM 2.5 monitor map. This maps seems to be mapping large areas without differentiating the data collected over time into hyper-localized areas, so the hyper-local sources of pollution, such as indoor residential wood burning, can be pinpointed both in real time or with collected data, as is possible using a purple air map, without using hyper-localization of information and without showing hyper-localization of pollution sources. This is like a radar gun aimed at a highway which depicts average speed of all cars without picking out which cars are speeding and at what speed. Yes, the speed may increase on a highway in certain areas at certain times may increase, but the radar gun user is Left with incomplete information to use to justify shutting down each air-polluting indoor residential wood-burner one wood-burning appliance at a time if necessary. This could be information technology left without a clear path to ending the pollution it captures as illuminating data, but does not capture our actionable data. The focus is on industries, such as factories and power plants, while individuals who could take individual actions to end pollution in their neighborhoods are seemingly ignored, at least in the description of what the climate map can do in their hyper-localized area. This leave the near neighbors of indoor residential wood-burners again defenseless, at least in this scenario. However, the very existence of this map indicates that Al Gore is focusing on PM 2.5 from fossil fuel sources as a scourge on society. RAWSEP interjects here, as RAWSEP always interjects, that wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning. Wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as natural gas burning. If there are people concerned about air pollution who were introduced to wood burning in their youth and cannot seem to kick the habit, they would examine their own actions and change, because unlike cigarette smoking, wood does not contain the addictive chemical nicotine. So change from wood burning to clean home heating and clean industrial energy sources of wind, solar, and geothermal powering home heating systems is more easily possible than a human kicking a cigarette addiction. Kudos for baby steps from Al Gore, who is enamored of the alliterative words fossil fuels FF, while ignoring wood-burning pollution WBP that is obviously affecting humans adversely. In 2025, a recent study shows wildfire wood-burning pollution kills 41,000 each year when wood-burning restrictions ease. When wildfire burning dies down, now indoor residential wood-burners pick up the slack on air pollution, which is not how modern society in an era of emerging scientific and medical knowledge should function. Now, Al Gore should belatedly acknowledge publicly that individual brave actions and brave stances are needed to stop indoor residential wood burning conducted by individuals, which adversely affects the health and shortens the lives of near neighbors in the hyper-localized vicinity. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, Fast Company, it shows PM 2.5 pollution responsible for nearly 9 million deaths each year globally in more than 2,500 cities. Orange dots indicate sources of air pollution. September 24, 2025. This map shows how air pollution travels to your neighborhood. It feels abstract until they see themselves in the story. This map shows how air pollution travels to your neighborhood if you search for your city on a new map and zoom, and you can see pollution drifting from factories, power plants, and ports into your neighborhood. The map, a first-of-its-kind air quality tool from Climate Trace, a nonprofit coalition co-founded by former Vice President Al Gore, shows how pollution moves through cities. The new interactive tool, launching September 24th, is powered by a sophisticated model that tracks local air pollution and weather data and feeds the map. It shows PM 2.5 pollution responsible for nearly 9 million deaths each year globally in more than 2,500 cities. Orange dots indicate sources of pollution, with a stream of smaller dots showing how it moves over the city, shifting course with the wind. Right now, the map presents snapshots of average and bad air days in each city, but it will later offer data in near real-time image. Climate Trace, eventually, we will have it on a daily basis, so that if you have a child with asthma, or if you have family members with lung and heart conditions that make them sensitive to air pollution, you can go to your favorite weather app and see exactly what the pollution flows have been through your neighborhood that particular day. Gore says health researchers can use the data to see how pollution is linked to disease at the neighborhood level. Cancer Alley in Louisiana, for example, has one of the highest levels of air pollution in the world. One community in the area, called Reserve, has a cancer rate 50 times higher than the U.S. average. Image Climate Trace, the visualizations of the tool can aid policymakers in making the case for more state regulation and help the worst polluting sites transition to cleaner tech as the Environmental Protection Agency moves to stop collecting some emissions data. Climate Trace, which stands for tracking real-time atmospheric carbon emissions, can also help partially fill that data gap. Companies can use its data to identify and replace the worst polluters in their supply chains because the same sources are responsible for both climate emissions and air pollution. Highlighting the health impacts also helps build support for climate action. Connecting those two streams of pollution and tracing them back to the same combustion process makes it easier to understand exactly why we have to accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels, says Gore. 5. A United Kingdom report at the European Respiratory Society Congress in Amsterdam. Wood smoke trendy. Indoor wood burning stoves linked to lung decline in new study. The damage is like smoking. Daily Mail. Wood burning stoves can damage the lungs in a similar way to cigarette smoke. Researchers have warned trendy indoor wood burning stoves are as bad for the lungs as smoking. Shocking new study finds. Do you own a wood burning stove? Email the Daily Mail. 5b University College London researchers examine health data from 11,000 participants in the English longitudinal study of aging alongside property energy performance certificates EPCs and UK census data. Experts reveal the hidden impact of indoor wood burners on our health. Wood burning stoves have grown in popularity in Europe during the cost of living crisis. RAWSEP view wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning. Wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. These statistics were found by testing the eco-design wood stove, the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, The Independent. September 30th, 2025. Despite concerns about their impact on health and the environment, more than 150,000 new wood burners are sold every year. Despite concerns about their impact on health and the environment, more than 150,000 new wood burners are sold every year. Burning wood indoors could cause damage akin to cigarette smoke. Researchers have warned after a new study linked the growing popularity of domestic wood burning to lung damage. Wood burning stoves have grown in popularity across Europe. In the UK, experts state domestic wood burning is a major source of PM 2.5 air pollution, tiny particles that penetrate deep into the lungs. University College London researchers examine health data from 11,000 participants in the English longitudinal study of aging alongside property energy performance certificates EPCs and UK census data. data, they found wood-burning appliances are more commonly used by white people in affluent city neighborhoods, even within smoke control zones. They reported at the European Respiratory Society Congress in Amsterdam lung function was assessed 3 times over an 8-year period among a smaller group of over 1,700 people. Researchers used a test to see how much air people could blow out in 1 second after a deep breath, and also known as forced expiratory volume in 1 second, or FEV1. They found that declines in FEV1 were larger among people who used indoor wood burners. Experts say that in the UK, domestic wood burning is one of the largest single sources of a type of air pollution known as PM 2.5 tiny particles that penetrate deep into the lungs. Experts say that in the UK, domestic wood burning is one of the largest single sources of a type of air pollution known as PM 2.5 tiny particles that penetrate deep into the lungs. For example, among people aged 70 to 79 who took part in the study, their FEV1 decreased by an average of 0.12 liters among those using solid fuels such as indoor wood burners compared to 0.07 liters among those not exposed. The research team found that self-reported wood fuel use increased from 10% in 2004-05 to 18% in 2021 to 2022. Dr. Horsfall told the Congress, "We know wood burning at home emits harmful air pollution both indoors and outdoors, including known carcinogens. Despite this, air pollution from this source has approximately doubled in the UK since 2009 as more people install and use wood stoves. However, the link with health outcomes in high-income countries is not well understood in residential areas with high emissions are hard to identify using existing air quality monitoring networks." She added, "We found that people using solid fuel had lower rates of smoking and lung disease, which can mask the true effects of solid fuel exposure. However, using repeated lung function measurements over an 8-year period, we found that lung function declined faster among solid fuel users compared to those who do not use solid fuel burning, including wood burning, even after adjusting for socioeconomic and housing factors. This suggests an important link between solid fuel use and respiratory decline. Despite the healthier baseline of the exposed group, our study suggests that high levels of particulate matter from stoves damage respiratory tissues, causing inflammation in a similar way to cigarette smoke. The researchers will now investigate whether people living in or near areas with a high concentration of wood stoves, such as the wealthier parts of London, also show increased rates of respiratory issues such as inhaler prescriptions and hospital visits for lung conditions. Experts found wood-burning appliances are more commonly used by white people in affluent city neighborhoods, even within smoke control zones. They reported at the European Respiratory Society Congress in Amsterdam. Commenting on the new study, the chief executive at Asthma and Lung UK said the findings of this research are not surprising but do help to add to the body of evidence of the impact of air pollution from wood burners on our lungs. It is concerning that the numbers of homes with a wood burner is increasing, and primarily the reason for having a wood burner is the aesthetic of it. Hopefully, this research causes people to question if the payoff of having a wood burner is worth it for the detrimental impact it could have on you and the lungs of your family. It would be good to see increased awareness on the impact of wood burners, with clearer information and guidance from the government on the health impact, as well as increased regulation around domestic wood burning. The head of the European Respiratory Society expert group on epidemiology and environment added, "In Europe, we are seeing a growing trend for using wood burning stoves at home. Research in other parts of the world where traditional wood burning is used in the home has shown that this is harmful and causes asthma, COPD, and lung cancer. These findings suggest that wood burners used in European homes may have similar effects and should be considered a potential environmental risk factor when assessing respiratory health, especially in patients with unexplained lung function decline or chronic respiratory symptoms." Although new eco-design European wood burners are generally considered cleaner and safer than more traditional wood stoves, many European homes still employ older wood burners, and even the newer stoves may not be entirely risk-free. 6 United Kingdom Camden, wood burning and cooking to be covered by conference discussion panel. Air Quality News. Camden is jointly leading the London Wood Burning Project, as well as Healthy Waterways London, which aims to set out a future vision. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Air Quality News, September 25, 2025. Wood burning and cooking to be covered by conference discussion panel. The discussion panel at the 2025 National Air Quality Conference will consider the twin issues of domestic wood burning and cooking, both domestic and commercial. Our panelists will discuss the work they have undertaken in relation to one or both of the above, and will take questions from the floor. Tom Parks, Air Quality Program Manager at Camden Council. Camden is jointly leading the London Wood Burning Project, as well as Healthy Waterways London, which aims to set out a future vision and opportunities for cleaner air for the benefit of everyone who lives, works, learns, and travels on and alongside the London canals and inland waterways. Graham Peterson, Coordinator, Trade Union Clean Air Network. Tukin Graham has coordinated the Trade Union Clean Air Network established by the Green Jobs Alliance and Hazards Campaign since 2019. The Tukin campaigns for workers and trade unions to have greater recognition on air pollution issues. The network has worked with union reps on air pollution measurements and provides training and guidance for workplace reps on monitoring. Councillor Ryan Jude, the cabinet member for air quality at Westminster City Council. Earlier this year, Westminster launched a new pilot scheme aimed at discovering the threats that might be posed by cooking practices in restaurant kitchens and what might be done to mitigate them. The council is an official supporter of the Global Cook Safe Coalition, which was launched in Australia in 2022 and in the UK in 2024. The coalition aims to transition kitchens, both commercial and domestic, towards safe, sustainable cooking. Dr. Laura Horsfall, University College London, a researcher at the UCL Institute of Health Informatics. Laura has led studies investigating the use of wood burners in England and Wales. Her work revealed wood-burning hotspots and linked increased lung cancer rates in affluent areas to potential carcinogen exposure from wood smoke. In May 2025, her analysis of energy performance certificates found a significant rise in the number of homes installing wood burners since 2022, especially in rural areas. Chloe Cowles, Senior Communication Campaigns Manager, Global Action Plan. Chloe leads Global Action Plan public awareness campaign Clean Air Night, which sparks a national conversation about the health and environmental impacts of wood burning each winter. She is also working on the transition to electric cooking in the UK, including a recent pilot project, which saw social housing properties in Manchester retrofitted from gas to induction hobs and tenants meeting with a Michelin-starred chef to learn about the benefits of electric cooking. 7 Wisconsin Madison RAWSEP view. The editor of RAWSEP lives in Madison, Wisconsin, but has worked in Rockford, Illinois, and has relatives in Rockford, Illinois. The editor of RAWSEP is familiar with the tools that Rockford, Illinois produces that are used in cutting-edge scientific and medical research in Madison, Wisconsin. The editor of RAWSEP and her relatives in Rockford, Illinois share her progressive political values, perhaps against all odds the current economic argument of Democrats echoing that of Bernie Sanders. Since 2020, since Joe Biden took from the Bernie Sanders playbook to pass the Infrastructure Act and the Inflation Reduction Act during his 4-year term, can be pointed to when discussing which party, the progressive Democrats or the Trump Republicans who take from the poor and middle class in 2025 to pay for tax breaks for the rich best represents the interests of the working poor and the working paycheck to paycheck middle class. The supposed charisma of Trump may account for his win of the presidency in 2025, but Trump misinformation and disinformation may have played an even greater part as the Trump machine stumbles on economically more potential rural Wisconsin and urban Rockford voters may become more clued in and disenchanted by Trump actions and see more clearly that Republicans are not acting at the Trump whim in the best interests of the poor and middle class all across America, whether they live in urban or rural areas. Rural residents of Wisconsin and urban residents of Rockford may face economic challenges that it seems Madison evades, but that may be a mirage, and certainly the truth is that Democratic residents of Madison do not look down on rural residents of Wisconsin, nor urban residents of Rockford, Illinois. The attitude of Madison toward Rockford does not cause Rockford economic problems, and the economic problems of Rockford should not be laid at the feet of Madison. Rockford, Illinois, is located in a reliable blue Democratic state, and poor residents and middle-class residents of Rockford can expect their governor to fight for their interests with the support of a Democratic state assembly and a Democratic majority state senate. Wisconsin, unfortunately, still has a Republican-controlled state assembly and a Republican-controlled state senate, since the rollback of gerrymandering has yet to bear fruit through enough successive elections of majorities of Democrats in those chambers to reflect the real will of the voters. Madison values of progressivism extend beyond the capital city, but unfair gerrymandering for the last 15 years has muted the rural areas of Wisconsin. Progressivism, with representation of the interests of the poor and middle class, will naturally attract the poor and middle class of rural Wisconsin. The effect of falsehoods over the airwaves in rural Wisconsin, where TV stations are often limited to Republican Fox News, probably has more effect on demoralizing rural voters than any rural resentment at unfairly perceived airs of superiority from urban dwellers has. According to Ballotpedia, Illinois has a Democratic trifecta and a Democratic triplex. The Democratic Party controls the offices of Governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General, and both chambers of the state legislature as of September 29, 2025. There are 23 Republican trifectas, 15 Democratic trifectas, and 12 divided governments where neither party holds trifecta control as of September 29, 2025. There are 25 Republican triplexes, 20 Democratic triplexes, and 5 divided governments where neither party holds triplex control. A state government trifecta is a term to describe when one political party holds majorities in both chambers of the state legislature and the office of the governor. A state government triplex is a term to describe when one political party holds the following 3 positions in the government of a state: the governor, the attorney general, and the secretary of state. Wisconsin has a Democratic triplex and a divided trifecta. The Democratic Party controls the offices of governor, secretary of state, and attorney general. The Republican Party controls both chambers of the state legislature as of September 29, 2025. There are 23 Republican trifectas, 15 Democratic trifectas, and 12 divided governments where neither party holds trifecta control as of September 29, 2025. There are 25 Republican triplexes, 20 Democratic triplexes, and 5 divided governments where neither party holds triplex control. From the article headline Rockford, Illinois visit highlights the economic bubble in Madison, Wisconsin. CapTimes.com excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Capital Times, September 29, 2025. My 2-day return to Rockford, Illinois was for a high school reunion. The experience reminded me just how profoundly fortunate Madison is consistently insulated from economic waves. Madison, Wisconsin sports building cranes and signs of growth all around Rockford, Illinois. 70 miles south has long been the polar opposite of Madison, Wisconsin. Madison has state government and the University of Wisconsin-Madison as economic buffers, but during this century has extended its economic advantage. It has become a more and more important regional healthcare center and a hotbed for technology, especially technology related to healthcare. I recognize plenty of people in Madison do not experience the city as any kind of economic Shangri-La with its high housing costs, but I am generalizing for the sake of comparison. This economic cocoon can foster the sense that much of Madison is populated by people very like one another and enjoy living in what many view as a bubble of privilege. Such people are politically progressive, have a high level of education, read books, travel, and enjoy financial security. There is nothing wrong with that. Of course, it is just an observation. Many would aspire to that life. This two-city dichotomy was sharpened in my mind by our week-long CapTimes Idea Fest with audiences of earnest and engaged progressive attendees hearing stirring progressive speakers. 3 governors spoke, and there were cerebral sessions about the staggering concentration of wealth in America. Days later, I pulled into Rockford, into what seemed a starkly different world for those unfamiliar with the Rockford story. The early years of Rockford City were strongly influenced by Swedish immigrants, many of whom were expert furniture makers, but the most successful times in Rockford were the 1940s through most of the 1970s, when the big factories of the city were humming and workers could earn excellent middle-class livings, raise families, own houses and cars, and enjoy economic security on a single income. Most dads on my block carried lunch pails and served in World War II. Quintessential greatest Generation guys that picture like something out of a Norman Rockwell painting changed abruptly after I left for college. Rockford was among the prominent casualties in the collapse of the American manufacturing economy. All of the statistical measures indicating a healthy community, crime, family, income, unemployment, school achievement worsened. Back in 1996, I wrote defensively about my hometown for the Wisconsin State Journal. Money magazine had just ranked Rockford dead last. 300th in its ranking of livable American cities. Madison was ranked first that year. I pointed out how Madison had been insulated from economic downturns by university and government employment, while Rockford had not. In 2013, I wrote a Cap Times cover story about Rockford. Headline: Rockford as the miserable neighbor of Madison. It was inspired by a clever tourism campaign that spun the image problems of Rockford, proclaiming that misery loves company. City boosters arranged for me to tour the best parts of Rockford and meet with interesting people, including Rick Nielsen, the colorful guitarist of the Rockford-based rock band Cheap Trick, which later was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That trip back to Rockford was fun, and my cover piece was whimsical. Now, 12 years later, I noted how Rockford tries and tries, but still struggles despite the best efforts of the many community leaders whom I know and read about. I had a free day in the city before a pair of nighttime reunion events, so I visited the family cemetery and lunched with the current pastor of my boyhood church, but for the rest of the day, I aimlessly roamed both sides of town. The Rock River divides Rockford plus the downtown. What I saw was block after block, mile after mile, really, of small and mostly neglected houses that suggested occupants who live paycheck to paycheck. If that, I was struck that these homes were not concentrated only on the historically high-crime south side, but all over town. There were abandoned commercial and retail buildings of various shapes and sizes, and I did not see a single construction crane all day. And everyone in this town, I thought to myself, lives within 5 minutes of a payday loan store. As I explored the city, I also recalled the book titled Janesville, Wisconsin, An American Story. Its author, Amy Goldstein of the Washington Post, spoke at the first Cap Times Idea Fest in 2017. She talked about the heartbreaking human fallout from the closing of the Janesville, Wisconsin General Motors plant in 2009. Janesville, Wisconsin, of course, is midway between Madison, Wisconsin, and Rockford, Illinois, and its story could easily have been told about Rockford given its many factory closings over the decades. My lasting takeaways from the visit: first, I am convinced that many people in Rockford struggle through no fault of their own. In fact, many would have likely flourished in the Rockford of the time of their parents and grandparents. Their odds of achieving blue-collar contentment are far longer these days. Second, that it might behoove comfortable Madison progressives, and I include myself, to restrain our judgments about why people in other places do not see things culturally and politically quite like we do, because there are many places, both urban and rural, in which far fewer people won the community lottery, including places like Rockford. 8. Inside Climate News newsletter, September 28, 2025. Inside Climate News also has YouTube videos from its conference during Climate Week. Dear ICN reader, each day during Climate Week, we released a new conversation about a complex and urgent climate issue. The full series is ready for you to watch. Catch up on episodes you missed, screen them whenever you want. Go deep with our journalists who illuminate the environmental costs of the enormous and growing international footprint in China, the climate impact of the sudden boom in data centers, how factory farming hides its pole, and the expanding sophistication and spread of scientific misinformation. Google alerts, September 30th, 2025. World Heat Pump. Could a heat pump be the answer to heating your home this winter? The World Economic Forum, they extract heat from a source, the surrounding air, and amplify this heat. 2025 heat pumps are much more efficient than boilers because they transfer world heat pump good drying. Thanks to Heat Pump IST International Surface Technology, Springer condensation drying with a heat pump is a sophisticated system that works with extremely dry air and the right airflow due to physical properties. United States heat pump and solar and storage deployment could offset AI load through 2029. Report utility dive subsidies of 50% for heat pumps and 30% for solar and storage would free up well over 100 gigawatts of grid capacity at a cost comparable to new gas. United States heat pump rebate. But homeowners only have a few months before the tax credits are gone for good. The cool down incentives for heat pump water heaters expire Dec 31st to qualify for the tax credit of 30% off the project cost up to $2,000. The appliance must be United States heat pump rebate. Home appliance experts reveal the little-known hack to get $800 for a kitchen remodel to cool down. You can even regulate temperatures in each room with individually controlled all-electric heat pump systems with an energy-efficient, all-climate. United States heat pump homeowner provides brutally honest review after upgrading their HVAC to a high-tech heat pump to cool down. One homeowner offered the nitty-gritty details of the heat pump installation, from cost to customer service, in a Reddit post. United States heat pump rebate homeowner receives helpful advice on quest to snag lucrative water heater rebates. The cool down upgrading to a heat pump water heater is a great way to save on your energy bill. United States heat pump states get a blueprint to speed up heat pump adoption. Canary Media states are ramping up efforts to get residents to switch from fossil fuel-fired heating systems to all-electric heat pumps. Illinois, Central Illinois Heat Pump Comprehensive Guide reveals how heat pumps deliver 20 to 40% energy savings, and WCIA.com save up to 40% on energy bills with new heat pumps. One system for heating and cooling rebates and tax credits make them affordable. Iowa Dubuque heat pump rebate energy efficiency tax credits will expire this year. Here is what a Sierra Club political director said. The Gazette rebate program, or HERES, provides rebates. It is just contacting your appliance dealer, whether it is for a heat pump or water heater. Iowans Maine heat pump states get a blueprint to speed up heat pump adoption. Maine Morningstar states are ramping up efforts to get residents to switch from fossil fuel-fired heating systems to all-electric heat pumps. Now, they have got a big new Maine heat pump rebate. Top heat pump water heater rebates available nationally. Clean Technica Efficiency Maine is currently offering a $1,100 instant rebate at retailers and distributors. With this generous rebate, HPWHs typically cost under. Massachusetts heat pump rebate. Centerline Mac secures $2 million in Mass Saver heat pump rebates. Yahoo Finance. What is the Mass Save rebate for heat pumps? As of 2025, Mass Save offers rebates of $3,000 per ton capped at $10,000 for whole home air source heat. Massachusetts heat pump rebate. Top heat pump water heater rebates available nationally. Clean Technica. Most homeowners in Massachusetts can receive a $750 rebate when selecting an Energy Star certified unitary HPWH. Interesting interestingly enough, for the Massachusetts heat pumps could be affordable for most if rates were fair utility dive. Massachusetts is making a good start by offering seasonal discounts for heat pumps, but it could do more, right? Authors from Green Energy Missouri. Jefferson City heat pump rebate better move fast to get tax credits on new heat pumps or EVs. Jefferson City News Tribune, for example. If you buy a heat pump and qualify for a $2,000 tax credit, you document that expense on your tax return and you owe $2,000 less in Nebraska. Lincoln heat pump rebate. A simple way for residents to save energy, reduce costs. The cool down. Lincoln, Nebraska is making it easier for its residents to upgrade to heat pumps with a new incentive program. Nebraska wood burning deadly explosion, avoidable tragedy should not have happened. Woodworking Network. The deadly wood dust explosion and fire at a Nebraska pellet plant was a terrible tragedy, made more so by findings that at least one of the Oregon Medford wood smoke update. Public warned about wildfire smoke as Moon Complex burns road closes. Rogue Valley Times. Wood burning stoves or furnaces, aerosol sprays, frying or broiling meat, burning candles or incense, and vacuuming. High efficiency particulate. Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. PM 2.5 exposure to PM 2.5 linked to increased dementia severity. Neurology Advisor. Health Day News. Exposure to fine particulate matter air pollution PM 2.5 is associated with increased dementia severity as well as Alzheimer's. Artificial intelligence overview. Findings in this study of 602 autopsy confirmed individuals' exposure to higher levels of fine particulate matter air pollution PM 2.5 was associated with more advanced Alzheimer's disease, neuropathologic change ADNC, and more advanced clinical measures of dementia. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Health Day News. Exposure to fine particulate matter air pollution PM 2.5 is associated with increased dementia severity as well as Alzheimer's disease, neuropathologic change ADNC, according to a study published online September 8th in JAMA Neurology. Borum Kim, MD, from the Perelman School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, and colleagues used data associated with autopsy cases collected from 1999 to 2022 at the Center for Neurodegenerative Disease Research, Brain Bank at the University of Pennsylvania, to examine associations between PM 2.5 exposure, dementia severity, and dementia-associated neuropathologic change. Data were included for 602 autopsy cases with common forms of dementia and/or movement disorders and older controls. Vermont Williston heat pump. The heat pumps you have not met yet living. Green WillistonObserver.com. Williston Observer. Duct air source. Heat pumps look and operate a lot like a central AC. There is an outdoor unit and an indoor unit, both of which have aluminum fins. The Champlain Valley is a region of the United States around Lake Champlain in Vermont and New York, extending north slightly into Quebec, Canada. It is part of the St. Lawrence River drainage basin, drained northward by the Richelieu River into the St. Lawrence at Sorel Tracy, Quebec, Canada. British Columbia heat pump opinion. Heat pumps could be the British Columbia best bet for safe, affordable homes. Yahoo News Canada. I thought if anyone could help the cooperative switch from a gas boiler to efficient heat pumps and bring cooling to my former neighbors, it would be them. United Kingdom wood burning experts reveal the hidden impact of indoor wood burners on our health. The independent wood burning stoves have grown in popularity across Europe. In the UK, experts state domestic wood burning is a major source of PM 2.5 air pollution. United Kingdom wood smoke. Indoor wood burners cause damage in a similar way to cigarette smoke. The independent researchers say wood burning at home has increased in recent years. United Kingdom wood smoke. Indoor wood burners linked to a decline in lung function. Medical Express. Using a wood burning stove at home can lead to a decline in lung function, according to research presented at the European Respiratory Society. United Kingdom wood burning log burners. The rules and fines for winter 2025 to 2026 shields. Gazette. The laws around wood burners in the UK can be complicated as they depend on where you live, what you burn, and local council regulations. The Clean United Kingdom wood burning trendy. Indoor wood burning stoves linked to lung decline. In new study, the damage is like smoking. Daily Mail. Wood burning stoves can damage the lungs in a similar way to cigarette smoke. Researchers have warned. Advertisement. United Kingdom Camden wood burning, and cooking to be covered by conference discussion panel. Air Quality News. Camden is jointly leading the London wood burning project as well as Healthy Waterways London, which aims to set out a future vision. And United Kingdom heat pump. Brave the cold weather with a cozy heat pump. Octopus Energy. We tested our cozy heat pump at minus 20 degrees centigrade, and yes, it kept running at peak efficiency, unlike our social media manager. United Kingdom heat pump finally stain-free thanks to heat pump drying. IST International Surface Technology. Springer.com. Full coverage. Europe wood smoke. Indoor wood burners cause damage in a similar way to cigarette smoke. Impartial Reporter. Wood burning stoves have grown in popularity in Europe, and experts say that in the UK, domestic wood burning is one of the largest single sources of it. India PM 2.5 and inter-urban variability in chemical characteristics of residential outdoor PM 2.5 in Indian PubMed. Particulate matter PM 2.5 and its detailed chemical characteristics have not been adequately explored in urban residential communities. India PM 2.5, a novel framework for airshed delineation and PM 2.5 estimation across India using PubMed. Air pollution continues to pose a major challenge in India, with PM 2.5 being a key contributor to serious health risks. China. Shanghai PM 2.5, an assessment framework based on travel behavior of residents using mobile phone data. ScienceDirect.com. We assessed PM 2.5 exposure risk in Shanghai, examining its spatiotemporal heterogeneity and dominant influencing factors. The results indicated that China PM 2.5 associations between PM 2.5 components, temperature, and semen quality. Insights from ScienceDirect.com. In this prospective cohort study of 649 men in Wuhan, China, we investigated associations between fine particulate matter PM 2.5 components. Ambient China. Hong Kong PM 2.5 bacterial endotoxins are high-potency, low-mass drivers of PM 2.5 toxicity. Sampling study reveals Phys.org endotoxin, a toxic chemical found in bacteria, makes up only 0.0001% of PM 2.5 fine particles, but packs a serious punch when it comes to its China PM 2.5 impact of short-term exposure to ambient air Pollution on cardiovascular disease outpatient visits PubMed methods. We analyzed 510,831 CVD outpatient records alongside daily concentrations of PM 2.5 PM, tinus O2 in O2CO, and O3 from 5 monitoring stations. China PM 2.5 long-term exposure to major constituents of PM 2.5 and executive function among children. ScienceDirect.com epidemiological evidence regarding the effects of long-term exposure to fine particulate matter PM 2.5 constituents on executive function. EF in AI overview long-term exposure to major PM 2.5 constituents like ammonium in H4+ organic matter OM and black carbon BC is associated with poorer executive function. EF in children, specifically in domains like global executive composite GEC and metacognition index MI. These constituent-specific associations vary across EF domains, and joint exposure to these components increases the risk of executive dysfunction. Factors such as age and parental education level can modify the impact of these exposures, with younger children and those with lower parental education being more susceptible. China PM 2.5 6-year trends of concentration, chemical composition, sources, and health risks of ScienceDirect.com. Atmospheric PM 2.5 concentration in rural areas of northern China significantly exceeds urban levels, primarily due to widespread coal combustion. And Japan heat pump rebate appliance expert predicts which money saving home tech will explode in popularity. Yahoo Tech rebate. When you beyond just heating the water in your home, Mitsubishi can help you find an affordable heat pump to heat and cool your home. Headlines. The New York Times, September 29, 2025. Air pollution caused by indoor residential wood burning can be replaced by clean energy for home heating, including heat pumps that work down to 40 degrees below zero, double as air conditioners, and lower monthly electricity bills. Immediately from the article headline, are rooftop solar panels the solution to the growing energy crisis in America? The New York Times. Air pollution caused by indoor residential wood burning can be replaced by clean energy for home heating, including heat pumps that work down to 40 degrees below zero, double as air conditioners, and lower monthly electricity bills. Immediately from the article headline, at a Times event, opposing views on climate change collide. The New York Times. Aviation. RAWSEP view government shutdowns role in flight delays. From the article headline, opinion. Why is your flight always delayed? Blame government shutdowns. The New York Times. Alaska seized a $95,000 plane over illicit cargo, a 6-pack of beer. The New York Times. Consumers reading 27 new books to read in October. Thomas Pynchon, Malala Yousafzai, Philip Pullman, and more. The New York Times. Consumers food recalls 58 million pounds of corn dogs are recalled because of wood in the batter. The New York Times. Consumers skin products, everything you need to know about retinol. The New York Times. Consumers food, how an ice cream obsessive recreated the Choco Taco. The New York Times. Consumers fashion Sunday special, what we wear, and why. The New York Times. Democrats opinion, Democrats are in crisis, eat the rich. Populism is the only answer. The New York Times. Generations, how does Gen Z divorce look different? The New York Times. Government shutdown, Trump actions. Trump to meet with congressional leaders as government shutdown looms. Live updates. The New York Times. Government shutdown, which federal benefits and services continue during a government shutdown. The New York Times. Influencers women. Erica Taylor is the midlife makeup guru on social media. The New York Times. Iowa movies. Baseball fields still cashing in on the field of dreams. The New York Times. Michigan church shooting and fire, what we know. The New York Times. Music. RAWSEP view. Trump describes Springsteen as a personal enemy. From the article headline, Bruce Springsteen addresses dangerous times amid personal threats from Trump. The New York Times. Music. Dolly Parton citing health challenges postpones Las Vegas shows. The New York Times. New York faces painful history as it marks the bicentennial of the Erie Canal. The New York Times. North Carolina. Fragile North Carolina residents lose Medicaid support for food and housing. The New York Times. RFK Jr. TV. The American Revolution as a topic. Opinion. Ken Burns on why the American Revolution never ended. The New York Times. TV. Sports. RAWSEP view. Actor Glenn Powell plays a disgraced college quarterback named Russ Holiday, disguises himself as Chad Powers. Is Chad Powers based on Eli Manning? AI overview. Yes, the Hulu series Chad Powers is based on a character created by former NFL quarterback Eli Manning for a viral skit on his ESPN series Places of Eli. In the original skit, Manning, disguised in wigs and prosthetics, tried out for the Penn State football team as they fictional walk on Chad Powers. Glenn Powell and Michael Waldron expanding on the idea, while Eli and Peyton Manning serve as Hulu series executive producer. From the article headline, with Chad Powers, Eli Manning goes Hollywood. The New York Times. Trump crypto opinion. We really want to trust crypto interests with the future of money. The New York Times. Trump Kirk actions after the Kirk death, a bumper crop of conspiracy theories. The New York Times. Trump Kirk actions opinion. Ta-Nehisi Coates on bridging gaps versus drawing lines. The New York Times. Trump Kirk actions. She was fired for a comment on her private Facebook account. The New York Times. Trump lawsuits. Trump inquiry into Ray, another former FBI director. The New York Times. Trump relatives actions. A deal of Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, $55 billion deal for Electronic Arts, is biggest buyout ever. The New York Times. Trump Russell Vought actions. RAWSEP view. The man behind Republican Project 2025. From the article headline, the man behind the Trump push for an all-powerful presidency. Russell bought the New York Times. Workers coders replaced by artificial intelligence. Big tech told kids to code the jobs, did not follow. The New York Times. Workers high-skilled visas have problems. The Trump $100,000 fee will not fix them. The New York Times. Canada. United States link lost for want of a ferryman. A 2-century U.S.-Canada link is severed. The New York Times. Puerto Rico native Bad Bunny will headline Super Bowl halftime show. The New York Times. Venezuela. The Trump America and the specter of regime change. The New York Times. United Kingdom. Nature octopuses invade English coast, eating anything in their path. The New York Times. Europe. Sports golf, how Europe won the Ryder Cup. The Athletic. Europe Sports golf. RAWSEP view. Americans heckled UK golfers as Americans lost with Trump in attendance. From the article headline, Rory McIlroy on verbal abuse at Ryder Cup. I do not think we should ever accept that in golf. The Athletic. Moldova. RAWSEP view. Good news From the article headline Russian meddling fails to swing a pivotal election in Europe, the New York Times, Taiwan, the Chinese missiles threatening Taiwan, the New York Times headlines The Guardian, September 29, 2025, Broadway shows waiting for Godot review the Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter unlikely reunion. Broadway, The Guardian, consumers reading A Cottage of That One owns newly unearthed Virginia Woolf stories to be published. Books, The Guardian. Democrats RAWSEP view the book critic may be the deluded one about what this book is about. Kamala Harris writes dispassionately about the dangers of Trump Republican plans in Project 2025 during her 2024 campaign for U.S. President. This book is factual and gives a good perspective about her efforts to explain Project 2025 to the American people and her repeated pledges to help Americans rather than harming them, as Trump is now doing in order to provide tax breaks to the rich. From the article headline, The Kamala Harris Election Memoir shows just how deluded the Democrats still are. Nesreen Malik, The Guardian, games from AI expertise to foxes in the bin bags, a week in Venn diagrams, cartoon life. In style, The Guardian, music, Dolly Parton postpones Las Vegas residency, citing health challenges. Dolly Parton. The Guardian, religion, politics, pastor linked to Lutheran church group, also linked to Neo-Confederate movement. U.S. News. The Guardian, RFK Jr. ignorance of medicine and science, the abortion pill is safe, but why should Trump let facts get in the way? Moira Donegan. The Guardian, Trump news at a glance. More than 100,000 federal workers to quit on Tuesday in largest ever mass resignation. Trump administration. The Guardian, Trump versus Comey. Ex-Trump lawyer says Trump is using Comey indictment to conceal being criminal. Trump. The Guardian, United Kingdom consumers instant coffee, £6.50 for a coffee. I am going back to instant. Emma Beddington. The Guardian, United Kingdom RAWSEP view at war with Russia. From the article headline, Britain may already be at war with Russia. Former head of MI5 says defense policy. The Guardian, Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny to headline 2026 Super Bowl halftime show. Bad Bunny. The Guardian, Venezuela, Stephen Miller takes leading role in strikes on alleged Venezuelan drug boats. Trump administration. The Guardian, Europe sports, golf RAWSEP view Americans heckled UK golfers as Americans lost with Trump in attendance. From the article headline, U.S. fan ugliness at the Ryder Cup was merely a reflection of the Trump all caps America Ryder Cup 2025. The Guardian. Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. Saying the quiet part out loud. Roar. Hi, I am Tiger. Our human asked us to get up from our naps and start Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. She gave us a list of internet allies which we will post for her here.
Hi, I am Leone. It is better for your mental fitness to go to these websites than to go to bro sites for advice. Substack letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. Substack your local epidemiologist. The Midas Touch. The Guardian. The New York Times.
One introduction. RAWSEP view the United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree. But it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom. The Eco-Design Wood Stove and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP view purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.